Okay, class, today we're going to talk about subtracting polynomials. But first, let's review addition. There are 3 steps I need you to think about when you're adding polynomials. Step number 1, I need you to look inside the parentheses. Make sure it's all addition. If it's not, change the subtraction to addition, next number to its opposite. Then, look between the parentheses. Make sure it's addition. In today's lesson, that step is going to change. And then last, combine the like terms. So let's see if we can do one just to kind of review what we did with adding polynomials. So here we have this problem. The first thing that we do is we look inside the parentheses. Okay, so if we have a subtraction inside the parentheses, we're going to change subtraction to addition, next number to its opposite. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other set of parentheses. So I look over at the other set. Okay, we have a subtraction, so I change subtraction to addition, next number to its opposite. And now what we do is we just add like terms. So you'll notice we've got a 22x and a 14x that are alike. So we add 22 and 14. We end up with 36x plus, and then we look at the negative 6 and the negative 3. Again, we add those together and we end up with negative 9. So 36x plus negative 9 would be the simplification of this problem. Now it could also be written as 36x minus 9 because plus and negative is the same thing as minus. Okay, so that's what we do to add polynomials together. Now let's look at subtracting. Okay, subtracting, you'll notice the only difference is that there's a subtraction in the middle, but everything else is still the same. So we start by looking inside the first set of parentheses. And anything that's minus, we change it to a plus. So I'm going to change this minus to a plus and the 3 to a negative. Okay, then I look in the other set of parentheses. And I do exactly the same thing. I change the subtraction to addition, the 4 to a negative. Okay, so that step doesn't change. Okay, that's the first thing. Now, in order to do the second step, we have to understand a little pre-teach for a second. One of the things that we did several months ago was we looked at evaluating expressions or simplifying expressions that look like this. 3 parenthesis 2x plus 4. Okay, so what we had to do to simplify this is we had to use something called the distributive property to simplify it. Because this 3 on the outside means that I've got 3 of everything on the inside. So I'm going to pass this 3 out to the 2x using multiply, and we end up with 6x plus, and then I pass the 3 out to the 4, and we end up with 12. So we simplified that expression using the distributive property. But we have to do the same exact thing to polynomials. Because what really happens when I look inside or between the parentheses and I see a minus, I've got to change that minus to a plus because we want it to be addition. But what actually changes to its opposite is actually the one that's in front of the parenthesis. Because we know for everything like an x, there is a 1 in front of it. Well, this parenthesis is kind of like an x. Okay, there has a negative in front of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to distribute this negative 1 out to each one of the terms within that polynomial. So then this 3x squared becomes a negative 3x squared. The 8x becomes a negative 8x. The negative 4 becomes a positive 4. So in essence, what we're really doing, okay, if we actually look at all of this, let me get rid of all the writing, okay, and start from scratch here. What I want you to do is you first look inside the parentheses. You change any minus you have to plus, next numbers to their opposites. Okay. Next, I go to the center. I change the subtraction to addition, and then pass out the negative 1 that we just changed. So every element inside the next parenthesis will change. So the 3x squared turns to a negative 3x squared. The 8x turns to a negative 8x. The negative 4 turns to a positive 4. And then we just add like terms together. We've got a 5x squared and a negative 3x squared, which gives us 2x squared. Plus, we have a 2x and a negative 8x, which is going to give us a negative 6x. Plus, and then we look at the negative 3 and the positive 4, and that will give us a positive 1. So, subtracting these polynomials will give you the answer of 2x squared plus negative 6x plus 1. Let's try another one. Okay, so step number 1, look inside your parentheses. So we'll notice inside this one we've got 1 minus. So I change the minus to a plus, the 1 to a negative. Okay, when we look at the other set of parentheses, we've got quite a few going on. So I've got this first minus, I'm going to change it, and the b turns negative. Okay, oops, sorry about that. And then this one changes to a plus, the 1 turns negative. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to look in the center. Okay, it's a negative, so I'm going to change it to a plus. The 7b squared turns negative. The negative b turns positive, and the negative 1 also turns positive. Now we just combine like terms. I have a b squared and a negative 7b squared. And we need to remember, if we have a letter by itself, there is a 1 in front of it. So that's a positive 1b squared and a negative 7b squared, which gives me a negative 6b squared. Plus, okay, now I've got a 4b and a b. And again, that is a 1b. So 4b and 1b make 5b. Okay, and then we look at the 1s. I've got a negative 1 and a positive 1. They cancel each other out. So we're left with just negative 6b squared plus 5b. And those are b's, even though they kind of look like 6's. So let's try one more, and then we'll end the lesson. So if I could get you to do this one by yourself, pause the video and answer this question. Okay, so let's see how you did. Now you'll notice in this one it actually tells me to answer the problem vertically. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this in a vertical fashion. So we'd end up with 10x squared plus 2x minus 7. And then we'd have a little minus out here. Then we've got an x squared plus 5x plus 1. And that's what we're going to add together. So we do the same exact thing. We start on the top. Okay, do we have any minuses? Yes, we do. Here's a minus I change to a plus. The 7 turns to a negative. Okay, then I go to the second set. Okay, the second set doesn't have any minus, so we're good to go. So then I go to the big minus. Okay, so I change it to a plus, and every element of this bottom polynomial will change to a negative. So the x squared turns negative, the 5x turns negative, and the 1 turns negative. Now we just add like terms. 10x squared plus a negative 1x is going to give me 9x squared. Plus 2x and negative 5x give me a negative 3x. Plus, and the negative 7 and the negative 1 give me a negative 8. And that's how you solve polynomials dealing with subtraction.